Everyone can take their seats, please. Attention. Hello. Let's quiet down. Can I get your attention, please? Good evening. I'm Ed Selich. I'm president of Speak Up Newport. And I want to welcome you to our July meeting. Can you please quiet down? Behave. Speak Up Newport's your forum for discussion of community and civic issues. We put on the Mayor's Dinner every year. We have monthly programs, and we provide scholarships to Corona Del Mar High School and Newport Harbor High School. First of all, I'd like to thank the bungalow for the food. Hot dogs are always good in July, right? Yeah. Also, you'll find on your seats some comment cards. If you could fill those out, we'd appreciate it. We'd like to know how you heard about our meetings so we can communicate with you better. And also, if you have any suggestions for programs, feel free to write them in because we want to put on programs that you want to listen to. So we appreciate if you fill those out. We've got a few VIPs here this evening. We have our Mayor, Diane Dixon. Diane. Councilmember Jeff Herdman. Jeff. I think that's all the current council members we have. We also have former Mayor Rush Hill. Rush. And also former Mayor Todd Ridgway. Todd, back in the corner there. So before we begin our program tonight, July is the month we award our annual scholarships, and this year we gave out 4 scholarships, 2 to Newport Harbor and 2 to Corona Del Mar. The selected students from Corona Del Mar who could not be here tonight was Gianna Finier from Corona Del Mar. She's attending Brown University. We also have the other 3 winners here tonight. We have Maddie Vargas from Newport Harbor High School. We have Kava Madelli from Corona Del Mar High School, and Emily Reynoso from Newport Harbor High School. Maddie's going to UC Berkeley, Keva's going to Monmouth, and Emily's going to the University of Utah. And I'd like to invite them up here. I'd like to invite them up here for each of them to say a few words. So guys, come on up.
Hi, I'm Maddie Vargas, and I'm attending UC Berkeley in the fall as an undecided major in the College of Letters and Sciences. I just have to say I'm really excited to pursue my education, and I'm very thankful for the scholarship opportunity that has been given to me to explore in my academics and figure out what I want to do. Right now I'm thinking possibly a business major, but we'll see where I end up, but I'm very excited to continue to explore, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity.
Hello, my name is Emily Reynoso. I'll be attending University of Utah with the intended major of criminal justice and a minor of sociology. I don't know my plans for my career just now, but I'm so excited to attend college and further my education. And I really want to thank you guys for giving me this scholarship and allowing me to pursue my dreams. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Kave. I'm going to be attending Monmouth College in Illinois this fall. I'm going to be majoring in biology, and my plan and my goal is to become a physician. And other than that, I'm really grateful for this opportunity and the money to be able to further my education. And I just really want to thank Speak Up Newport for that opportunity.
Well, we had some really terrific applicants for our scholarships this year. It was really hard to make selections, but I can tell you that just from what we saw from the people that applied for our scholarships, that our future is in good hands. Okay. So on to our program this evening. The topic is the General Aviation Improvement Plan for John Wayne Airport. And After our panel completes their presentations, we'll have questions. I'll field questions from the audience. So I'll come up here, and please don't make a statement, ask a question, because there's probably quite a few people that want to ask a question, so we don't need a long statement. Just get your question out, and also who you want the question directed to. Okay, with that then, I think I'll introduce Councilman Jeff Herdman, and he's chair of our Aviation Committee, and he's going to introduce our panel. Jeff?
Yes, thank you. Come on, let's hear it for Jeff. Let's hear it for Jeff, come on. I am Jeff. I'm Jeff Herdman, City Councilman, and I am chair of the newly reorganized and repurposed Aviation Committee. I want to thank Sun, first of all, Speak Up Newport, for the opportunity we have this evening to talk to you, to talk to the community about John Wayne Airport and quality of life issues and the effect that John Wayne Airport has on our quality of life here in Newport Beach. Before I introduce our panel, I want to talk to you just for a minute about what we've been working on. For the past 2 years, the implementation of Next Gen and the effect it's had on our community has been our focus in terms of departure procedures, tracking legislation, and working directly with elected officials, lobbying, trips to DC, data gathering for purposes of working directly with air carriers who have voluntarily agreed to work with us in studying quieter takeoff procedures from JWA. These talks continue to take place, and also hiring of consultants. I mention all this because I want you to know that the city has spent considerable resources on this effort having to do with Next Gen, and we're going to continue that effort as well. Then came general aviation. The General Aviation Improvement Program was dropped on us from the Orange County Board of Supervisors, which completely changed our focus. When I say our, I'm talking about City Council. And our attention was taken away from commercial aviation and focused on general aviation practices and procedures out of John Wayne Airport. So here to talk to you today about the General Aviation Improvement Program and what has taken place and what the result is for our city is, first I'm going to introduce Sue Dvorak. Sue, will you come up, please? Where are you, Sue? Little bio on Sue. She's a founding member, one of the founding members of Citizens Against Airport Noise and Pollution. She's been involved in community activism and worked in development, PR, and executive administration support for nonprofit organizations for 20 years now, including Ozone House, an Ann Arbor-based organization that provides shelter and services for youth experiencing homelessness. She has handled development and communications for that organization. At the American College of Trial Lawyers, based in Irvine, she was executive administrative assistant to the president and executive director. So welcome, Sue. Sue is, told me before the meeting, I want you guys to be kind and nice to her. She is nervous. She's very nervous. And this is a nice group of people, Sue. I want you to relax and enjoy the experience tonight, okay? You have a lot of knowledge to share, and this is a nice group of people out here that will be willing to listen to you. So, and if anybody gets out of hand, I'll take care of them for you. All right. Joe Daichendt. Joe, will you please come forward? Joe led real estate firm Theory R Properties as the CEO and grew it from a $30 million organization to a $150 million organization in assets within the first 10 years. Joe was the CEO of Southwest Jet Center. Most recently, Joe built a team to create the award-winning ACI jet at John Wayne Airport. Joe spends much of his free time flying, holding a type rating in the Citation Mustang with 2,000 hours as pilot in command. He is passionate about aviation and passionate about customer service. And then finally, Tom Edwards. Tom, come on up, please. You have to sit up there tonight, Tom. Tom Edwards, he's a former city council member here in Newport Beach and mayor. And he conducts a practice which deals with a myriad of issues and successfully serves a variety of clients. He currently serves as aviation consultant to the city of Newport Beach. He helped create and negotiate the John Wayne Settlement Agreement, the 1985 John Wayne Settlement Agreement, which is a unique, locally controlled and court-imposed mandated restriction on John Wayne Airport. He's a member of the Orange County El Toro Citizens Advisory Commission, responsible for planning the reuse of El Toro Marine Corps Air Station upon closure, was chairman of that from 1999 to 2001. And Tom is a founding member of the Airport Working Group. So each of them have a presentation plan. And once they're finished, then we're going to open it up to questions and answers. And I'll be back. All right? Thank you.
First of all, can everybody hear me? Okay, great. You sort of understand the program. We're going to be talking about the General Aviation Improvement Program. And what I want you to understand is this is a program that the city has been tracking since 2017. It's not something that just arose, so we'll get started here. We're going to reference the general aviation. We're going to talk about the GAIP. You're going to hear a couple terms like fixed base operators, like Joe has represented in the past, one of those. We're going to be talking about light and small GA and also the GA jets. The GA jets seems to be the sticking point with most people in the community, but that's sort of where we're headed. There we go. I'll figure this out. Okay, first of all, when I say we, I'm speaking now sort of on behalf of the city here. They're not. Okay, well, let me just talk anyway. That's all we can do. It was advancing. Let's try it now. Okay. Okay. All right, well, we have a little bit of a snafu, but let me just give you a couple of the ideas. First of all, this is not a city project. That's what people have to understand. I've spoken to a number of people, even neighbors, community in them, and you have to understand that this is a project that is promoted and advanced by the county. The city does not have the ability to control the airport outside of the John Wayne Settlement Agreement, which does not deal with general aviation. And essentially what you have out there is an update of the general aviation facilities. For approximately 40 years, the general aviation facilities have been in existence out there and continue to serve the people in the community. So this is essentially an update of the facilities. It is no different than if somebody went in to remodel their existing two-bedroom home and they walked into the planning department and said, look, what I'm thinking of doing is I want to make this maybe 3 bedrooms, maybe I want 2 bedrooms and add a loft, et cetera. And that is essentially what the county has done, or at least is proposing. There are no changes to the physical size of the airport. So I know you've seen signs in the community which talk about expansion of the airport. There is no physical expansion whatsoever. What was proposed, and you've probably also seen this out in the community, is that there were originally 3 full-service fixed-base operators. That's the max that was being proposed. That means, well, I don't have the slide that can show you, but currently there are 2 fixed-base operators on the east side of the airport, and there is also hangar space for one of the FBOs, fixed-base operators, over on the northwest side. So this program that's being presented does not introduce fixed-base operators. They've been there. They've been in existence for a number of years. One of the issues, however, is what the size and number of those particular fixed base operators. One of the ideas also being introduced under this proposal is a general aviation terminal. Now, there is, in fact, a terminal in one of the FBOs. Whoops, here we go.
There you go. Is this your slide up there?
Yep. So I'm not going to see it here. I'm just going to look up there. All right. Let's hear it for the technical people. Okay. Well, anyway, as you can see, there is the 3 full-service fixed-base operations which were proposed. You'll see there was a general aviation terminal. There is, in fact, an existing terminal now. There is a proposal for a general aviation facility, and this has a lot of people in the community. Can you hear me? All right. The General Aviation Facility for International Travel, called the GAF. This is a proposal that is on the drawing board out there, and that would allow what is called a port of entry for planes coming in from overseas. By the same token, there currently are planes coming in overseas. They just don't have a port of entry where they can be processed for overseas. There'll be provisions for flight school. There are already flight school facilities existing. There's already Orange County Sheriff's Airport Support Facility, but that would also be modernized. And you can read the rest, but every one of those things, except for the GAF, exists in one form or another at the airport currently. Make sure I have this right. Okay. The city, when they looked at this project starting when the EIR was released in 2018, had to make a decision in terms of what the proposals. There were 5 separate proposals that were out there. One was you do nothing. One, you do what was called Alternative 3, which is what the city was an advocate for, which means you make certain FAA modifications to the airfield so to comply for safety, et cetera. And then there were 3 major ones. One was called the proposed project, which proposed 2 FBO operators, one on the east side, one on the west side. And then there was another one which proposed 2 on the east side, et cetera. Let me just go to this slide so I can give you a little better view of this. Okay. Just switch this. Okay. If you, all right, can you see this? All right, at the facilities that exist today, you already have the full-service FBO there. You have a full-service FBO there. Those currently service GA jets. That's the thing that people seem to be complaining about. There will be, at least in terms of what the board adopted on June 25th, there will be remaining a full-service based operator here, an FBO, but this one will be gone, and then there will be an FBO put over on the northwest side. And so what ended up with was 2 FBOs. We'll move forward again. Got to go backwards. All right. So then you can see what the city advocated. We attempted to obtain what is called Alternative 3, which I described briefly. However, the board voted that down. The board of supervisors. There's the one who have control in terms of what's done out at the airport. And what they did, the city then re-examined, and based upon some things that Supervisor Doe and Supervisor Steele advanced, they then talked in terms of one new and existing limited service FBO. The city advocated for no general aviation facility. That's the international processing port of entry. Some increased hangar space for small general aviation planes, and maintain the current GA mix. When we say the GA mix, we're talking about some light GA and some heavy GA. By heavy GA, I'm really talking about jets. see if I can get this right. Okay, so then on the 25th of June, after a second consideration and some extensive hearings at the board came back with a resolution which was pushed by Supervisor Steele, which was they certified the program. What they did was, and that's all they did, the only actions they took was to certify and pass 2 board resolutions with authorize the ability of the project to move forward. And I know I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds, but this is what's called a programmatic EIR. It's not your typical EIR where it is program or site specific or building specific. It deals with an overall master plan with some general outlines of what can and cannot happen out there. So they adopted that, and what they did was they adopted 2 full-service FBOs, one on the east side, one on the west side, which coincides with what the city was ultimately advocating. One limited service FBO and one existing limited service FBO, which the city also advocated. There's also an option, and this is important, they did not take an action that put this in cement. An option for general aviation terminal and an option for general aviation facility. Both of those may or may not be adopted because it's up to each FBO when they respond ultimately to a request for proposal, which will take this project forward. They have to submit as to whether or not they want to put a general aviation terminal or a general aviation facility in their FBO. There's no requirement that they do so. In addition, there was then a proposal to correct 4 existing non-standard design features, and then Supervisor Steele added a supplement to the resolution which directed county staff on land use and lease-based restrictions. And I'll show you a slide about that next. And if I can use my trusty pointer. Okay, so here, these 2 in yellow are what are called the fixed base operators. This will be 11.4, this will be 14.2 acres. That's what's dedicated to what we'll call the heavy jets. And those will be 2 FBO operators provided they win the bid. Nobody is designated as who that will be. In addition, through a variety of ways, the small GA, both the north and the south, will be dedicated to small GA. That is the proposal. This diagram was attached to the resolutions. And so this is the outline, and I stress that again, this is the outline of the proposal. This process, and I've talked to some people who think everything is over, it's done, it's finished. No, this is literally the beginning. This is, if you're a marathon runner, this is like you're at mile 1, because you have now what's called an RFP process. The county will have to prepare and put out an RFP, which means a request for proposal, which will say, okay, I'm the FBO, I want to operate, I want to be on the northwest, or I want to be the southeast, or I want to be both, and this is how I'm going to build and configure on the acreage that I am allotted, the approximately 11 and 14 acres that they're designated. That process will go out. I'm anticipating it'll probably be sometime this fall, but I don't have any guarantee on that. And then each one of the FBOs, and that means limited and full service, will have an opportunity to make a bid and say how they would configure the property, how they would provide for different services, how they would operate at those facilities. Then that will go back to the Board of Supervisors, and then the Board of Supervisors will make a determination of who actually will be the designated FBO, whether it's full service or limited. And part and parcel of that problem or issue is, of course, making certain that these, at least the city is obviously concerned and will continue to shepherd like it has in the past, these 2 areas which are designated for small GA. The idea being that it is of great concern to the citizens with regards to not having the louder GA jets, which are the ones that people have to deal with on a daily basis. See if I have this right. Okay, so we have fixed base operators respond, then the selecting, and then the other issue which keeps coming up, which actually I think it was Ed who called me and said, well, I understand this is a done deal, that they're going to pick the FBO tomorrow. And I said, no, not only are they going to pick them in, I'm guessing 6-9 months, but then there's a process for how it would be constructed. And the construction of this will take place, at least as proposed and as designated in the environmental documents, in 14 separate phases. And that would go counterclockwise to the where the airport. So it'll start up in the northwest corner and then up in the northeast corner, and it will take 7 years or more. So we're talking 2026 or more before the project is in fact completed. Let me see, is there one other thing? Let me just, okay, I'm running out of time here. Now, some of the questions that myself have been fielding, I know the mayor and council members both have been fielding. Tara Finnegan, who works very hard on this issue, you know, things I've already talked about. Does this increase the airport size? No, we're still talking about an airport of 504 plus or minus acres, of which 390 plus are actually functional. Does it change the commercial or the general aviation curfew? Answer is no. Does it introduce international flights? The answer is no. There are currently international flights coming in and out of John Wayne General Aviation, just as there are commercial flights that come in and out. So it doesn't introduce them. You are correct that if the FBO is a successful bidder, that they potentially would have a GAF or international processing facility, but that is for arrivals only. That's a port of entry, not a port of departure. And I think I've already covered that there are changes effective immediately. And if you have any other questions, there's someone at the city manager is here, Grace Long is here, and she has fielded questions repeatedly. The mayor is here. I know she fields questions continuously. Jeff does, as well as does Tara. And if you need more information, do not hesitate. Hopefully that gives you an overview. You can spend hours on the subject, as many of you know. So that's as quickly as we could do it. I apologize if it went too long.
I'm going to choose to read mine this evening, and the only reason I'm choosing not to speak extemporaneously is because if I get one little inaccuracy in what I say, Tom's going to jump all over me. So I thought it would be better to write it down and commit it. No, that's okay. That's okay. I think we're safe. Good evening. I'd like to thank Ed Selich and Rush Hill and the Speak Up Newport organization for giving residents a platform to voice our concerns about the General Aviation Improvement Program. I'd also like to thank the City Council and staff, the hardworking staff, for working with residents to try to reduce the negative impacts of the General Aviation Improvement Program. Admittedly, our residents groups and the city don't always agree on everything, but it is a good thing that we have an ongoing, frank dialogue with our representatives. Thank you. Prior to 2017, I didn't know anything about, nor did I care about, planes, trains, or automobiles. And unbelievably, today, 2 years later, I can tell you what GAIP is, as well as GA, GAF, GAT, EIR, DEIR, RFP, RFQ, AWG, JWA, SNA, TSA, CEQA, PIG and STAY, and STREL. I know about all of these terms now because in 2017, the FAA mandated the Next Gen Metroplex program, which narrowed the flight paths at airports across the country, including here at JWA. Because of the new narrowed flight path, combined with the lower flying jets, residents living near the flight path noticed a dramatic increase in the number and frequency of commercial jets flying over our homes. And the noise became unbearable because jets are flying lower now, as low as 1,000 feet above our homes, an average of 185 times a day. I met other concerned citizens at airport-related meetings, and we eventually formed Citizens Against Airport Noise and Pollution, CAMP. But while we were focused on the issue of the next-gen problem, lurking in the background for a number of years, unbeknownst to us residents, was this General Aviation Improvement Program, the GAIP. Plans to improve and expand general aviation operations had been in the works for several years, but we didn't know about it. When we found out about it, we began to examine what it would mean for residents, and we were alarmed and became focused on how to stop this speeding train. So what is the GAIP? Tom already alluded to a lot of it, and I'm going to probably rehash a little bit of it. The GAIP is supposed to be a program to make improvements in the general aviation area at the airport in order to comply with FAA mandated standards. The improvements the FAA want are very minimal, but the airport and the county saw this as a way to make other non-mandated changes to facilities which would attract more business and revenue to the general aviation sector. These new facilities will result in increased operations, that is, flights into and out of JWA. And unlike commercial aviation aircraft, general aviation aircraft are not subject to the 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew, and they're not counted in the annual passenger count currently limited to 10.8 million passengers per year. But the absence of these two restrictions on general aviation aircraft are not the only issues we are concerned about. For example, the GAIP Draft Environmental Impact Report, or the draft EIR, was begun in 2016. The baseline 2016 data in the draft EIR are thought to be incorrect, so that implies that their projections are also incorrect. According to the city's letter of June 21st, 2019 to the Board of Supervisors, quote, the lack of accurate information regarding the number of business/jet turbo-based aircraft means that the impacts of the proposed project have not been accurately addressed or disclosed, end quote. Additionally, there are issues with the way the county calculated the number of transient jets flying in and out of JWA. The main issue that we have with the General Aviation Project is that there is no specific project description. We simply don't know what the details in this project are. The EIR lays out different options that are available to include in the project, but there are no specific details on what the project will include at the end of the day. In spite of this, the Board of Supervisors voted to pass the GAIP project last month. The next step in the GAIP process is opening up bidding for the fixed base operators, or FBOs. FBOs, as Tom explained, are the companies such as ACI Jets, which will bid to get a 30-year contract to run the general aviation sector at JWA. The FBOs will lease out the new facilities to tenants, that is, the jet owners and small plane owners. We believe the community must have representation, participation, input, and oversight at all phases of the bidding process. Here are the stipulations we'd like to see as part of that process, referred to as requests for proposals, or RFPs. 1, maintain the mix of jets and small planes from 2016 when the draft EIR was written. 2, limit hangar width to 40 feet or less, which supports the intent to preserve the 2016 jets and small planes mix. 3, stipulate that the FBO hours of operation conform to commercial aviation hours of operation. 4, stipulate the FBO lease terms with their lessees adhere to commercial hours of operation, including strict termination of the lease for repeated violations. 5, remove the GAIF International Terminal from the project, including port of entry designation. It's unnecessary. It creates security issues and establishes more lenient hours of operation, thereby setting a bad precedent for this future. 6, establish that JWA general aviation aircraft depart in a northerly direction whenever safely possible. Joe. And 7, ensure that Jet Suite X customers are processed through the main terminal. If the supervisor's intent is to protect residents, they should have no problem including these stipulations in writing in the RFP bidding process. The city and others have stated that the changes to general aviation operations will result in only a few more jets per week. But the fact is, no one knows how many more jet operations will take place at JWA, especially with a new international terminal attracting unknown numbers of flight operations. ACI Jet stated in the August 6, 2018 Orange County Business Journal, quote, "Central to all of this is our planned $40 million development at JWA," end quote. $40 million development. Think about that. Does it make any sense for ACI Jet to invest $40 million in this project if it only means a few more jet flights will fly in and out of John Wayne Airport per week? We think the numbers are much higher than anyone involved in this is saying publicly, and that the FBOs stand to make a ton of money. We do not characterize the outcome of the Board of Supervisors' vote on the GAIP as a win for residents, and here's why. While the outcome in this matter could have been worse for residents if the supervisors had chosen alternative one, and the outcome was better than the city anticipated, it still doesn't mean the outcome is a win for residents, because first, the supervisors approved a new international terminal to process customs and immigration with the goal of JWA becoming a port of entry. What this means is that instead of international customers having to go down to Brownfield in San Diego to be processed when they enter the country to visit, say, Disneyland, they will be encouraged to fly into JWA with its port of entry designation and ease of processing. How many more flights will be flying over our homes and schools because of this new international business sector? We don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know. We think it's fair to assume there will be a significant increase in traffic. And it's important to remember that while the customs and immigration processing hours will be restricted to 5 a.m. to midnight, allegedly, these hours only apply to the international terminal. The rest of general aviation operations will continue to be exempt from this restriction and will continue to be allowed to fly 24/7. How did the county come up with these hours? We don't know. In any case, though, the 5 a.m. to midnight hours of operation are not acceptable because they don't conform to commercial aviation curfews. The second reason we don't think the general aviation project is a win for residents, to restate, no one knows what will be included in this GA project at the end of the day. How can this be considered a win for residents if we don't know what will be included in the final project or have an accurate counting of GA aircraft, and we don't know how many transient jets will take off and land at the airport? Third, this isn't a win for residents if we will have even more ultrafine particulate matter from jet fuel emissions raining down on us and the tens of thousands of children living and attending school within a 10-mile radius of this flight path. We believe it is imperative for the city to hire an experienced legal team of highly credentialed experts with documented experience in airport land use, airport FBO lease and negotiations, and FAA regulations to answer these questions and represent residents' best interests. In closing, I encourage residents to pay attention. Educate yourselves on this issue, get involved, speak up, take action, and hold your elected representatives accountable to you. If it wasn't for residents stepping up and taking action, we would not have the settlement agreement today, and we would not be sitting in this room discussing this topic tonight because no one would know about this operational expansion. It would have just been pushed through behind our backs. Don't look to someone else to solve this for you. No hero rode up on a horse to save the day for us. The hero in all of this is residents. It's you and me. As the airport director, Barry Rondinella, stated in the February 19th, 2018 issue of the Orange County Business Courier, quote, "The airport will get bigger," end quote. It's time to stand up and be your own hero. Thank you.
That's going to be very tough to follow.
now.
Oh, that's locked out.
Well, I'll call the guy, just get started.
Okay, you got it. Well, I put a lot of time and energy into today, but we'll get to the slides here in a little bit. Look, first of all, I'm thankful to be here. I know that this is a hotly contested, emotional issue, and I am with ACI Jet, one of the 2 FBOs that's on the field. Here we go. Yeah, go for it. Switch. Test. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So I've had the chance to speak with council members in Newport, Mayor Dixon, Councilman Herdman, Councilman Muldoon. I've had the chance to be with every supervisor's office in the county. And looking at this, is it working?
Get your, where's escape on this? I think yours is open, isn't it? Where's yours? There you go, right? Is that yours?
That's it.
Does it work?
Let's see.
Let's do that. How's that?
I think it's working.
Okay.
Yeah. There it goes. Okay. So one of the things I want to jump into towards the end of the presentation is I want to get into a win-win that is sitting out there in the short term. I have a lot of ideas on how to address the long term, and I'm specifically talking about noise. I want to stress that we need to be speaking, though, the same language and using the same definition of terms. It's clear there's a lot of frustration from all sides, but I believe a sizable part of that is just the flat-out confusion over the terms. So I'll start with me. I didn't understand the noise impact until 6 months ago. I didn't understand it until it was really explained and I could hear from the other side what was really happening. Again, this is difficult because I'm a pilot that's been flying out of John Wayne for 12 years on business aviation. I participated pre-next gen and I participated in the next gen departure procedures. And looking back and through this dialogue, I've been able to understand and uncover a lot. So real quick, a little bit about me. I've lived in Orange County since 2001. I have 4 kids. My background's in real estate. I co-founded a fun little company called Howie's Game Shack back in 2005. And I am, as Councilman Herdman say, an avid aviation enthusiast. From my youngest memories, I always wanted to learn how to fly. And when I was young in my business career, I was actually in a Southwest Airlines plane. And if you remember, back in the day when you used to sit backwards. And so I was sitting backwards, looking out the window, watching 2 gentlemen climb into a small business aircraft. And it just got my mind going, like, how are they doing that? That I could go to airports that are smaller. I could take more control of my schedule if I could figure out how to do what they were doing. So that's how I got started. I did learn to fly at John Wayne Airport. I hold many ratings. I'm type certified to fly a jet single pilot. I'm also an owner in ACI Jet in Orange County. And one thing I want to highlight about this location, it's been award-winning. In 2 years, it's pulled a record number of awards and has been put as the #1 FBO in the country. That's for a lot of reasons. Great customer service. We remodeled our facilities. Highest standards of safety. We are the first FBO in Orange County to receive an ISBA rating by IBAC. It's the highest level of safety in FBOs. And then there's the customer side of running the FBOs, how to be intelligent about the customers you take. So there's a smart balance to getting the new customers. And if I could explain for that, to make the comparison of John Wayne Airport and the runway in the FBOs to a highway and let's call it a parking lot. That's kind of the relationship between the feds and the county. Because what happens is anybody can drive down the highway or the freeway. But if you pull into a parking lot and pay a fee and it's full, then you could pull in, drop your passenger off, then you have to leave. That's also true of John Wayne Airport. We cannot restrict the runway. The county cannot restrict the runway. The runway itself. So a plane can land and a plane can take off, but if there's no parking for it, the interesting thing is we create this unnecessary departure and the subsequent arrival. So it's about a smart balance. It's about the center of a pendulum. If you have no parking, you'll create a whole bunch of unnecessary traffic. If you have too much parking, you'll attract unnecessary business and unnecessary noise. So both ends of the spectrum are wrong, and we want to find that perfect equilibrium, right in the center. So I've got a couple slides. I'm going to switch. One of the questions is, what's an FBO? So I'm going to do a real quick walkthrough. This is ACI Jet in Orange County. Some of the things that we do, if a passenger is going to depart, they'll pull up to valet. They'll check in at the lobby. The services that we provide are a number of items. Everything that an airplane needs, no different than the commercial services. Southwest Aircraft needs luggage put on board, needs fuel, even needs airplanes moved. Lavatories exist in airplanes as well. There's restrooms for the crew. And then this is what just recently happened with the GAIP. So I'm not going to repeat this portion. This was already covered extensively. It's yet to be seen exactly how the RFP is going to define light GA, and that is the green area. But what I want to jump into is to tackle one issue, and that's noise. I'm going to agree. I'm 95% in agreement until there's just a little sampling of data I'm waiting to come in. There has been more noise created, and unnecessarily. And mind you, that's coming from an FBO operator on the field. That's coming from a pilot that's flown thousands of times at a John Wayne Airport. So let me walk you through it. Right, what we're looking at is we're looking at the airspace over Sacramento, our state's capital. And you know what's coming next. The airspace over Los Angeles, the LA basin. So if we go back, you're going to see that the purple outlines a Class Charlie. Those little white circles, those are Class Deltas. Charlies are the second most restricted airspace. Number one is the Class Bravo, which is what LAX is. So where Sacramento has 3 Class Charlies and 3 Deltas and 1 Charlie, we have 1 Bravo, 3 Charlies, and an endless sea of Deltas with smaller airports. An example would be Fullerton. The airspace is busy down here, really, really busy. Now, what NextGen did is it aimed to move from ground-based to satellite-based navigation. We've heard that term a lot. So I have been poking at this issue, and I'll give credit to Councilman Herdman. He said to me, Joe, it seems like every plane is literally on top of the one prior. And I said, well, that's true, because it's GPS driven. 700 feet off the ground, the gear's up, you put the autopilot on, and it's flying itself. As a pilot, you are there to babysit the autopilot, and I will only ever earn my money is if something goes wrong. But the reality is the planes are flying themselves. So one of the things that's interesting here is taking a look at the total amount of noise complaints. So as Nick shares, the easy button for reporting noise came out in, September of 2018. So I'm curious, in 2016 and 17, had that button been in existence with NextGen, if we would have actually seen thousands of complaints as well? And the answer is probably yes. So I've actually requested from the noise office is, can I have a sampling data? I want a month out of 2014 compared to a month when NextGen was rolled out. And bear with me, because I'm about to get super detailed, so if anybody's eyes start glazing over too many, just tell me to move on to the next slide. But what I want to talk about is a departure procedure that is NextGen and a departure procedure that's pre-NextGen. Both of these are still being used today. So this is the muscle 8 departure. This is a normal thing for a pilot to look at and brief. We have 12, 15 departures out of John Wayne. Airports generally have 1 or more. This is a normal diagram for a pilot like myself to look at and understand within a matter of minutes and then fly it safely and accurately. So we're going to come back to the muscle 8. That is pre-NextGen. A NextGen departure is the Hero 3 departure. And you can see it says RNAV up there. And it has, interestingly, a surprising amount more of detail. And in particular, we're going to look at Strel. So that is the runways at John Wayne Airport. There's the turn, and there's Strel. What the restriction says, and this is really important, is once you make the turn towards Strel, don't cross it beyond 5,000 feet. So what's really important about this is that departure can be flown 1,000 times by 1,000 different pilots. And I would bet a large amount of money that not one of them will break that altitude. Because it's very different than driving in your car. If you're driving down the freeway and you're going 5 miles over the limit and you're risking a ticket, okay, we understand. We've done something wrong. We'll pay the few $100s, take the point on the license, right? That's the risk. If I bust that altitude, I'll be talking to the FAA later that day explaining why I need to keep my license and potentially losing my job for busting it once. So it doesn't happen with pilots. So if the crossing restriction's at 5,000, and here's what I'm gonna do. So just stick with me. This is actually really good. What I did is I started to overlay this over the actual, over an actual map. So look where Strel is. Strel is this far out over the ocean. So once you leave John Wayne and you turn towards Strel, you cannot cross Strel above 5,000 feet. And in reality, if you're not going to cross it above 5, you're going to put a little bit of buffer to cross it at 4,500 or 4,000. That's the reality of this, because hitting that altitude and going over it is so punitive that you will not jeopardize or risk it. You'll put a little bit of buffer in there. So that's the reality. I've flown this departure many times. The thing I keep getting surprised at is how fast I'm flying it and how fast everybody's flying it. Because the engines are running at full power and you get two choices. Use that engine power for speed or use that engine power for altitude. You got to do one or the other. So let's switch over to the Muscle departure. So what's interesting is the turn at Muscle happens earlier, and I've heard a lot about, it used to be, I've heard a lot of testimonials that back in the day, Joe, it used to be where departures would fan out. They weren't all just in a line, one after another after another. And let me put one caveat to this. This is not talking about the commercial operators. There's a very similar theme to the airlines, but this is what the business aviation jets are using. So, but this exact same theme exists on the commercial side. So, without jumping into the weeds too much, the long and short of it is, in this departure, the clearance to a pilot will look something like, fly the Muscle 8 departure, climb and maintain 5,000 feet, which gives me as the pilot the clearance to get to 5,000 feet as fast as I can. Realistically, I'll be at 5,000 feet halfway to Strel versus being held down to 4,000 or 4,500 on my way to Strel. The other benefit is the moment you hit there, probably 70–80% of the time, and this is just coming from my anecdotal experience, the SoCal Tracon cuts you for a higher altitude right away. It all depends if there's something sitting above you. If there's not, it's possible you're held at 5 all the way to the shoreline. But there's also a very real possibility that there's not a plane there and the controller clears you higher. So next gen was meant to make more efficiency, less radio calls, and it does accomplish that purpose. But one of the byproducts, and I've asked the noise office for some additional data, is this departure. It's the Hero 3 departure versus the Muscle 8. Are you guys still with me? Okay, all right, good. So here's where I'm going with it, is what this should be. One thing I want to stress about pilots, every pilot has a home airport. This one's mine. I care a lot about this place. I was really frustrated once I learned how to fly to see how abusive the businesses on the field were. And I did a grassroots movement, and we went up against a 600-pound giant with only 3 locations under our belt against an operator that had 2 locations worldwide. It was the only company that handled Air Force One more than the military, or less than the military. And we said we can never beat them. A California company, small company like you, cannot possibly operate a airport like John Wayne. Well, we proved them wrong. We proved them wrong because we became the #1 FBO in the country in under 2 years. We remodeled it. We won the awards. We retooled the whole place. So when I look at this, where this goes is to a voluntary noise abatement. And it's because at the end of the day, pilots all have their home airports, and they want to be good neighbors. When I fly somewhere, if there's a voluntary noise abatement, I'll take a look at it. If I can fly it safely, I follow it. It's no big deal. It's not my airport. I don't have to do that, but I do it because when pilots visit my airport, I want them to treat it with the same respect. So I've been leery to share this. I've been really, really nervous and skeptical to share it because it seems like no good deed goes unpunished, and if you speak up, you're going to get in trouble. But I think that we're at a point where we should begin to have a voluntary noise abatement and request pilots and operators, and start with all of our Orange County operators, to go to the Muscle 8 departure. And look at that, because I think we're going to see measurable differences in the noise. So I'll leave this in closing. I got a couple other thoughts. I just want to tackle one, which was noise. Airports, to me, are great places. They have a byproduct of noise. That's true. But they're industry. They create lots of jobs. They take people places for business, pleasure. And then the other thing is, I mean, even your Amazon next day package, it comes from the airport. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but there are some side effects that are bad. And my hope is, more than anything, that we're realistic about it. I'm realistic about it. I'm not going to agree with everything that Sue says, but I want to find the common ground and fix what we can. And ultimately, with ACI Jet, we want to be a beneficial, responsible neighbor to Newport. We want to be allies in this process. So I appreciate time. Available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff Herdman's going to handle the Q&A. I'm going to have a microphone to pass around, and Hugh Logan on the other side of the room is going to have one. So be sure you get the microphone before you ask your question, and please, questions only, no speeches. Jeff?
I got you in the chair. Yeah. I'm going to ask our mayor, Diane Dixon, to join the panel. We are ready for questions. Raise your hand, please, and I'll call on you. I know some of your names. I don't know all of your names, so I'm going to have to point. Right there, please. We need a microphone, Hugh.
Thanks. So, questions for Joe. Will your building have to be torn down in what's been approved so far by the supervisors?
Good question. It's unknown because the RFP hasn't come out. So even to the point of what's light GA, I'm as anxious as anybody to hear what gets finalized in the RFP, but it's a possibility.
So if your building is torn down, would you move to a new place that's already, are you grandfathered in, or do you have to bid like everybody else?
We have to bid like everyone else. We have to compete. We're taking nothing for granted, and we will come out with our best foot forward on a proposal.
Would you bid on an RFP that favored restricted hours of operation?
So that's an interesting one. So I'm going to take an extra 30 seconds on that one, because the delicacy of the settlement agreement is that Congress has made it clear and the FAA has made it clear never again. So that's just a realization. So as much as Leon Page, the county council, was advising the board of supervisors in real time, saying careful here, because we don't know if this is defensible, I was sitting out in the lobby watching on video with one of the largest aviation groups in the country sitting there saying, Joe, we don't like this. I'm like, don't like what? This is great. This is progress. We don't like the restrictions. So it feels like right now we're just literally just threading a needle about lawsuits on both sides, which I don't think are good if they come from either side. And so let me jump out and say this is, I have no problem as far as ACI, and I hope other applicants do the same thing, as far as voluntarily going dark on the FBO from midnight to 5.
Well, let's assume for just a minute that council decides it's defensible, and the RFP says something to the effect of the county would favor a respondent that would limit their hours over one that wouldn't. would ACI be a bidder under those conditions, assuming that they're defensible by the county?
Assuming they're defensible in that hypothetical situation, we would be supportive of that. And I'll even go further is again, we're willing to go voluntary dark, midnight to 5, with the exception of medical flights.
All right, a question for Sue. A question for Sue. Anyone out there? No one has a question. Okay, yes.
Hi, I'm not sure if you can address this or not, but I'm interested in the EIR. I haven't really found anything that was detailed and specific, and I'm worried about our estuary, the Back Bay, the migratory birds, 30,000 birds there on any given day, nesting, and how their habitats are affected. California has a great record of concern for environmental, but I don't see anything talking about the environmental issue for Back Bay.
Sue, it takes us about a half a second to come on after you. Just leave them on. Don't shut them off.
Okay. So I agree with you. I don't quite understand the environmental impact, the environmental part of the environmental impact report. First of all, if they get things wrong in the environmental impact report, it doesn't seem to really matter. I don't see any environmental studies that they've done and their effects on the Back Bay and the life that's there now, the wildlife that's there now. I haven't seen any studies on human health either and the impacts of the pollution from the jet fuel emissions. Those are two things I think that are really big that are missing out of that. And I don't know if Tom wants to answer, if you'd be better to answer that.
I would never interrupt you.
Okay, but it's not, no, you're not. And then I just have a question for Joe, because we met with Joe. Joe met with us. He came to one of our meetings and met with camp members. And at that time, because I have my notes here from that meeting, you said that you would ask for a voluntary hard stop on landing at 11 p.m., and after that time, you would impose steep fees on people who landed after that.
Yeah, so that was one of the ideas that we looked at. So just to be clear, when we say voluntarily go dark from midnight to 5, so that is the FBO hours. So a plane can't land at 11:58 and then be serviced within 2 minutes. So it actually expands far beyond that. But as far as the penalties, I was actually talking about the medical flights. See, one of the unfortunate parts is where we all want to make sure that medical flights can go at any hour if they need to. I mean, if someone's life's on the line, or an organ needs to be moved, totally get it. But those are for-profit businesses. Those are for-profit air ambulances. And because they're an exception to so many rules, they generally use louder, less expensive jets, which I don't think is okay. So I'm all in favor of penalizing those operators to incentivize them. Use a quieter airplane, especially if you're gonna get through the sky at 3 a.m. We understand the need, understand the emergency, you just don't need to use a loud airplane.
So according to you, in our meeting, you said there were 4 flights per week that were medical flights. Is that still correct? Do you still stand by that?
I double-checked the data, but if that's what I said, it's probably correct.
Any questions for Tom? Yes, Nancy?
I have one. Well, I usually speak so loud that people want me to speak quieter. Tom,
Yes,
I tried
Nancy.
to find in the FAA regulations, so if I'm coming in from Mexico and I have to land at Brownfield, okay, what is the regulation? How far can I come into the United States, like from Asia, not from Mexico,
The rule,
before I have to land at an airport?
the rule is that regardless of where you're coming from, whether or not you're coming in from Latin America, Mexico, the Far East, the Caribbean, whatever, the rule is that you must put down at the first port of entry into the United States. So currently, if you're coming in, let's say you and a bunch of buddies are down in Cabo fishing for a week, currently you would stop at Brownfield. I think they might also qualify for Calexico, et cetera.
Yes, they do.
So they would put into Brownfield, they would be processed at Brownfield, they would get back in the air, maybe refuel, whatever, and then they would, provided they're coming to John Wayne, they would then land at John Wayne.
So if we become a port of entry, they will come directly into John Wayne. But
Provided they have to file within 24 hours before the flight departs. You have to file, it's electronic filing.
okay.
It has to be approved by the CBP, which is Customs Border Patrol.
Well, let's say I'm in a big general aviation jet and I'm coming from Asia.
Okay.
So where do I, and we're a port of entry.
Well, probably and I'm guessing, depending upon where you are, you might be in Hawaii, so you'd put down in Hawaii.
No, Asia.
Yeah, but you're coming in from
We'd have
Hawaii,
to-
so you have to go to the first port of entry.
So
which,
if I'm coming from Korea
okay.
or Vietnam, okay, I would have to land in Hawaii.
I'm guessing as to where the closest one is. The
Okay.
mayor suggested
just-
it might be in Alaska.
I just tried to
depends.
find it and I couldn't.
So it'd
And-
come into the closest, you'd sit down, they'd go through the passport, make certain you qualify all the qualifications, and then you get back in the airplane and you'd land at John Wayne.
And I have one more question for
Okay.
Joe, please. You talked about 4,000 and 5,000 feet, but I'm wondering how we can get it to, the planes flying near Monitor 5, near my house, are less than 1,000 feet. So will and that's next gen. So will general aviation be at let's say 700 feet above my house?
So
Not the mom and pops, the general aviation jets.
so your question is, are the GA jets, what altitude will they be on an RNAV departure? Is that the question?
Right, I'm at Monitor 5.
I don't know. We'd have to look at a map specifically, but as I showed on the Hero 3, the planes are being held lower. That's undeniable. And I've flown it probably 100 times, so I know it. So
But I just want to make sure you know that everybody understands when you talk about 4,000 and 5,000 feet, that's not where they are.
correct. No, I agree with you.
Another question for Joe? Another question for Joe. Yes, Mel.
I have one for Joe and for Tom, but anyway, I'll ask Joe's first. If I can keep it, I'll ask Tom's. Joe, I've worked in the FBO business myself years ago when I was a young man. And your job is to optimize your revenue. And the airport, in their EIR document that put out the background statement, they had I think they listed 8 criteria for the project, or the program. And one of the criteria was to optimize the revenue generation of the county's asset at the airport. And that would be what would go forward, is both from the infrastructure plan and also for the RFPs that would then go out. So I'm guessing that's going to also be in the RFP, optimize the revenue generation. The airport gets a percentage of the revenue generation from the FBO based on the lease agreements and also the fuel sales and everything else that happens. That being the case, as you go forward in your response to the RFP, how can you not create a model where the corporate aircraft tend to be the highest revenue producing per square foot and per weight or tonnage on the aircraft? How can you not try to optimize your solution to fit the type of market that would yield the highest revenue generating asset solution, which would put you ahead of a lot of other bidders, possibly, in that regard? So it would be contra to both your internal interest and to what the airport's objectives are, or the county's objectives are, to have a subliminal revenue generating asset.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one of the things I'd jump back to is what happened 2 years ago with the Board of Supervisors. It's interesting because Supervisor Nelson at the time was given a response when someone came to the podium and said, hey, look, 95% of the customers are happy enough. You're just hearing from 5%. And his response is, he said, hey, it's just my opinion, but 100% of the customers that come to Orange County matter to me. And so one of the things that was very interesting is that we came out with a program that was going to provide a higher level of service to the smaller GA guys. 100 low lead fuel moving through piston aircraft is not very profitable in the FBO business. It is more like a community service piece. Right. We probably lose money. Yet, with the piston community, we pump 5 times the amount of fuel with the small guys that our predecessor did. And so the reason we did it is the right thing to do, is because I'm a GA guy myself. I can fly a jet. The vast majority of my time I'm flying a piston aircraft. So it's important that we take care of all of the customers. And I don't know how to say this better than you gotta have a philosophy that you take care of the entire bridge. Because you can try to legislate it and regulate it and put rules on it, but at the end of the day, companies and people will always find a way around if they want to. And the last one thing I'll say about that bridge that's really important, right now we're experiencing, there's a massive pilot shortage, massive. At John Wayne Airport, we have 2 flight schools that were almost run off this field 2 years ago. If Gary Sequeira and Michael Church were sitting here today, they would literally say that their survival, that the training market's survival at John Wayne Airport was due to ACI Jet. Had we not been prevailed, then our predecessor would have run them off the field. And so that's not a dollars and cents. That's a right and wrong decision, and it comes to the core of our company.
Yeah. And if it's not dollars and cents, it may put you a deficiency on your response. But anyway, I hear your point. I do have a quick question for Tom. It's a quick one, I promise. Tom.
True.
Reading the resolution document that I got yesterday, it's the first few words say approved recommended actions.
122-page document, yes.
Yes, I read the whole thing. It said approved recommended actions 1A and 2A. 1A and 2A are the EIR and the proposed project, as written in the original document that was way back in October or fall of last year. So those were approved, full stop. Put a line on it so they were approved. So the EIR is out of the way and the proposed project is out of the way. Second to that, the continuing statement said as directed airport staff to return to the board for consideration, I use that word from a legal context, reason I pass it to you, for consideration of a draft response for proposal for fixed base operators that includes blah, blah, blah. You know all the rest of the words. But the terms consideration and for review by the board says this is still an open issue. It is not a legally confining and constrained issue. Could you comment on why that would be considered a full win or that we still have work to do to get this position statement?
Okay, first of all, the context of the 1A and 2A deals with the 2 resolutions. They're 2 separate resolutions. And one of them, I got a piece of paper over there, et cetera, which deals with the proposed project, which is what was adopted. And people may disagree, but it is almost identical to what the city ultimately proposed. And I'll say it publicly. I've said it publicly before, but for our mayor and her relationship with Michelle Steele, we would have had 3 FBOs and no restrictions whatsoever, period. End of discussion. So we pushed for something, the city pushed. I look at anything, any agreement, I don't care what, remember, this is a programmatic EIR. This is not a specific plan, typical EIR. And I understand Sue's concern and others in the community. So what you've done is I used the silly example of somebody walking in and saying, I'd like to remodel my house. That's what the airport is proposing. They didn't even have to do this document. They could have done it independently, but they chose to advise everybody what was going to transpire over the next 7+ years. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I guess your question is, do I trust the county? My answer is I do. I do currently trust the county. And we trust the county because we've worked with them in the past. It may not be what people want to hear, but it's the truth. So we trust, but to paraphrase, I believe it was Ronald Reagan, you trust and verify. And I will guarantee you that the city, just like it began in 2017, tracking this process from filing comments just on the very notice of the preparation, I know that Tara, the mayor, the city council will continue to track this and bring it home. That's the idea. They're not going to let this go. This is a marathon. This is the first mile of the marathon. The devil is in the details. I think it might have been Andrew Doe who said it, and there might have been the mayor who repeated it. I'm sorry, Nancy Alston. Please stand up and take a bow. The devil is in the details, and believe me, the city will continue to dog this. This is not over, and so I don't know what else I can tell you other than I know people are not, accepting this, that the process is over. It has literally just begun, and it'll be interesting to see where people might put their monies where their mouth is in terms of what they're going to put out there in terms of responses to RFPs. Are they, what exactly is going to come back? The board's going to have to make difficult decisions, but the city will stay engaged to the fullest extent possible.
Hey, Jeff, we got time for one more question.
Okay, one more question.
One more? Yeah. Ronnie, do you want to?
And you don't want to. Okay. We'll take more than one more question. Could we? Is it possible to get some lights on in this room? Either that or raise the shades.
This question's for Joe. Hi, Joe. Over 12,000 Orange County residents.
Bev, put that microphone
I'm
right.
sorry. Thank you.
You're supposed to hold the microphone like this.
Like this?
Yes.
Okay. Over 12,000 residents voiced their opposition to the GAP through the petition, and a large part of that was the international facility and the port of entry. I recently read, and doing a little research on ACI, that ACI had a strategy of growing its large cabin fleet of aircraft, and that it would be offering more international range flights. And I think this pertained to your San Luis Obispo facility. I also read where your founder, Bill Borgsmiller, indicated that ACI jets from San Luis Obispo were flown to Italy, New Zealand, Australia, Europe, etc., Africa. So my question to you is, if ACI is one of the two FBOs under the GAP, is it ACI's intention to grow JWA home-based fleet of large jets that will increase international flights in and out of Orange County?
It's a good question. And so we've been fighting the misnomer that our corporate or our charter fleet is in any way involved with John Wayne. And that's just not the case. So as you correctly said, San Luis Obispo is where that fleet lives. And this is really a question for Bill Borgsmiller. But if he was sitting here today, he would say no ACI planes are coming to Orange County. They're going to continue to live in San Luis Obispo. The pilots will live in San Luis Obispo. The maintenance facility lives in San Luis Obispo. And that was his vision. So Orange County will be a purist FBO for ACI. And as it relates to the second question about customs, so since we're up against the coast already, and if there is a large cabin aircraft overflying, that plane has probably been in the air for 9+ hours. And it's going to another big airport that's going to have customs. So it's difficult to see that adding a customs facility adds traffic. Is it possible? I just haven't heard an argument that is logical to it, because if a plane is international and coming to John Wayne, it's going to stop, clear customs, and continue here anyways. And it's going to continue here now at a lower altitude with an unnecessary departure and takeoff, and unnecessary pollution, expense, time, etc. So I'm in favor of the customs facility. There's been a lot of confusion about it, and if it was to disappear, we were okay with that. But the facts do not support it. The facts are that a customs facility at Orange County will actually help out the air traffic system and help out pollution. So
Diane, I'm going to ask you, you have a very good understanding of the square footage issue, the green versus the yellow. And I think it will help in terms of a response to Bev's question.
Well, I don't know if I can get it. All right. There's one thing you take away tonight. Can you hear me? Okay. What Michelle on June 25th. Does this work better? Thank you, Hugh. And it was the day before, on Monday evening. Well, that's when we saw Michelle's proposal. I wish I could get the map up there. This is really, really significant, because this is the forcing mechanism to constrain operations. As everyone has said, it's only the FAA. It takes an act of Congress to change flight operations at any airport, including John Wayne. Oh, I'll put the yellow and green. Okay. So Michelle came up with a workaround that, when implemented, and this is what the Board of Supervisors passed on June 25th, when implemented, will indirectly and directly constrain operations. And what do I mean by that? So in your mind's eye, you're going to see the 2 yellow FBOs. Their square footage is limited to what you will see in this map as soon as it comes up. And incidentally, on the northwest FBO, on the other side of the airport, will be limited because a significant portion of that FBO is going to be dedicated to the sheriff operations. So that will constrain their operations. So what it means, can you find the yellow?
It's frozen again.
It's frozen? We got to fix this system. What this means is that there's only so much square footage to put these airplanes, jet airplanes in the yellow spaces of the FBOs. There's only so much. It has now been constrained and defined. There we go. ACI right now goes down to the middle where that white vertical line is in the green space on the bottom portion. That is where ACI is approximately. Is that correct, Joe? Okay. The Board of Supervisors, but we supported what their action was constraining the physical size, square footage of those 2 yellow FBOs, and then also on the square footage on the green space. The green space is the smaller planes. The variable on the smaller planes is their wingspan. Now, Sue, you mentioned 40 feet. Nobody's talking 40 feet. I mean, the pilots, the small plane, piston plane pilot people, they want 45 feet wide. 49 is what the Board of Supervisors has said that they would like to accept. We support the pilots and would go to 45. The bottom line is that the 40 to 45, and even to a certain extent 49, although there are jets in the 49 wingspan category, but those jets allegedly are quieter. And Joe, you can confirm that. But in any event, this is the bottom line. The physical space of this general aviation acreage will limit the jet planes that permanently reside at John Wayne and can come in. They can't fly down and land. They can't land if there's no space. It is a physical limitation, so it is a workaround to getting an act of Congress to change, and which would never happen because we wouldn't want to undo the settlement agreement. But this is really, really significant. And also, I do want to say one other point, as long as I have the microphone, thanks, Jeff, is that the international, whatever it is, right now my understanding is that there are about 330 some international flights a year that are taking out or landing at John Wayne. Does that conform to something you know?
Is that correct, Tom?
General aviation?
Oh, yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, okay, well, maybe less than 1 a day. Okay, well, that's what we're talking about. And now we're really only talking about takeoff or landing. It's really landing that we're taking, in terms of the processing, the passport control. So here's how it works. And we were talking earlier about you're flying from wherever you're coming from. If you're coming from a non-US facility and you're on a private plane, and I live this world in my corporate days, so I know what I'm talking about, is that if you're coming back in your plane, your pilots are going to say to you, okay, folks, we've got to get to John Wayne before it closes at 11:55 tomorrow when we're going to leave Shanghai or Beijing or Mexico City. So that means backing up, we have to leave Mexico City at 5 p.m., whatever. I'm making that up. But you work backwards from the time so you could land at John Wayne before midnight. Right now, general aviation can land 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If we constrain, albeit it's a small number of flights, even an element of constraint on international flights, we are forcing that mechanism to land before midnight, meaning they won't land at 3 a.m. because they may go to LAX to do their customs, and then they're going to do their processing at LAX and then come here at 3 a.m. and just turn off the lights and go home. But to allow for the international processing have to be done by midnight, means they get here before midnight, lights go out, they go home. That is better than allowing them to come 24/7, 7 days a week. So that is a small but modest constraint imposed on the general aviation. But we're running out of time, and I just want to take one more second to say, first of all, thank you for all being here. We're all in total agreement that this is the most compelling and pressing issue for the people in Newport Beach. We are all aligned. If you hear differences in terminology, yes, I do stand by saying this is a win. We put constraints and we advocated. We got a unanimous vote on June 25th. Let me remind everybody, on May 7th, you know what the vote is on our alternative 3? We lost 4-1. The city of Newport Beach lost. So between April or May 7th and June 25th, Michelle Steele was trying to figure out a way. She came up with this acreage solution, and on June 25th, unanimous vote for 2 FBOs. They had rejected our proposal for 2, and we're going for 3. We walked in the day before. We thought there were going to be 3 FBOs. I don't know about you folks. To me, that's a big win. That's the biggest part of this whole operation. The international, we're going to be tweaking on this. We will continue to work. The devil is in the details, thanks to Nancy, and she's been fighting this battle for 30 years. 20. Seems like 30. We couldn't do it without all of you. We couldn't do it without camp and SPAWN and Airport Working Group and Mel, all of you. We are living and breathing this 7 days a week, 24/7. You could hear it in my voice. We care. We're not going to give up on this. We're going to fight this. We're going to deal with, we're not going to fight them. We have to work cooperatively with the county, and I'll tell you why this is really, really important. The county is a signatory to the settlement agreement. If we make them mad, they're going to just say the hell with it. We'll let Newport Beach fight their own battles. They have to approve the settlement agreement, or it's thrown out. We cannot lose that settlement agreement. So we have to play nice with the county. Right now, our supervisor, Michelle Steele, is with us 100%, and she got 4 other supervisors to go along with her. That, to me, is a win. We're not done yet, and there may be a little bit of 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, but we are going to fight as hard as we possibly can. And we appreciate your help. Thank you, and you may have your microphone.
You may give it to them. Okay, I want to entertain some questions. Yeah, the gentleman in the back row, you've already asked quite a few questions. Let's give some other people an opportunity.
Can I ask a question?
Who?
Can I ask a question?
No, I'm calling on the gentleman in the back row who has his hand up. You're in the back row. Yes. Sorry, I don't know your name.
John.
Please use a microphone.
Thank you. If I were to, this is for you and or Mayor Dixon. If it were just the 2 of you making a decision and you had the power to do it, would you have voted for any expansion whatsoever?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So having said that, I know that you and Mayor Dixon have obviously...
You too, Diane? Yes? All right.
What's that?
The city council did take that position.
Right. And so this is a very... The one question that I've asked a lot of times, I just don't get an answer to, and it's a very stupid, easy question. It's what is the county's position? Why did they say it was necessary and needed, okay, to expand the general aviation? What was their reason for it, and did they provide you with any information or data that kind of validated this whole process? I mean, because that's a very simple question. In any big decision that involves people's lives, what are they saying? I mean, that's the very first question.
Okay, can we give you an answer?
Yes.
All right. I can't give you a complete answer. I can give you an answer based on what I know personally. All right. General aviation facilities at John Wayne Airport, some of the facilities are not in compliance with FAA safety standards.
Aside from that.
Well, that's one of the reasons.
Well, no, but we're talking expansion, adding another limited, FBO. That's part of the deal. I mean, there's 2 FBOs. They're going to add a limited FBO. There's provisions. I mean, I read some of this stuff, and it doesn't read real well, and it seems like a setup for continued expansion of that airport. And if you're saying that we're taking handshakes and agreements and negotiations of sorts without having really any guarantees, I just think that's a very weak position. And it's sadly to say, and I'm not trying to pontificate here, but I know that if we let this go on, in 2 to 5 years, Newport Beach isn't going to be the wonderful, desirable place it once was.
Okay, we all agree. Let me just tell you we're dealing with what the Board of Supervisors approved, and as Jeff just said, we wanted only to upgrade by FAA standards the existing facilities. That was rejected 4-1. Okay, so
Totally get it. And you know what? That means a lot to all of us here.
okay, all right.
Because we
So
know
we
then that
fought
you are
for-
fighting for us.
Correct, and we fought for the next best thing. When they wanted 3 FBOs, we had 2. Let me just tell you what a limited service FBO is. That's just like the mechanics. It's not fuel, it's just mechanics, it's just light work. Is that correct, Joe, what a limited service FBO is?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Well,
serve
any
trains.
way you look at it, it's expansion. And I just
No,
wanna say this.
no. That's not true. That is not true. That is.
Look at the number of jets that are added. Look at all the stuff that's coming in. It's right there. The 354. There's no.
Diane, look
oh.
at the limited FBO. And John, I'm under the flight path. Get it.
So-
I fought this thing forever. But when the limited FBO versus the full service FBO, ACI, Atlantic are full service. They service planes 12,500 plus, I think is basically what their apron supports. Those are the jets. The limited FBOs, which if you look at the diagram, if it's still up there, okay, look in the that's the southwest corner, which is north on this so-called map. That's a limited, but it's also limited, or it will be limited, to light GA. Now, with Sue is talking 40-foot with the airport's talking design group 1, others are talking 12,500, so you can't support heavy planes. But so it's not a full service FBO which deals with the
Okay,
GA.
I kind of follow it, but the bottom line is this: there are going to be more jets that make noise under the general aviation plan, and to assume that the handshakes and the agreements and these little things, well,
by the Board of Supervisors to conform with this. That's not a handshake, that's a resolution. So don't characterize it as a handshake. It is a resolution.
okay, so we're going to trust that, obviously you and the council from Newport Beach really do have our backs and are going to fight for us and really, keep
Absolutely.
us informed. Because the other thing that we don't get is everybody has other lives to do. And we sit in our homes and we just listen to this noise and we know the pollution's horrible. And we just want to know that, we've got somebody fighting for us. And it just doesn't seem like, it just seems like it's getting worse, okay? And so when we look at this general aviation, there's an expectation as if we already know what everything consists of. Why wouldn't they just make it simple? Here's what we currently have. Here's what we're proposing. Here's why, okay? And if it makes sense, we all kind of go, all right, it makes sense. But the problem that we see is it looks like that there are some backroom deals going down. I'm not saying there are. I'm just saying what the perception is. The perception is that big money is paying to get their jets here, and at our expense. And I don't mean that monetarily. I mean it health-wise, and that's a big deal. When it deals money, in a business deal, you lose, you win. But when it comes to people's health and safety, we have to rely on public trust of our officials.
Okay,
and if they're not doing that.
John, one of the things that Ed said when we reached the question and answer portion of this evening is that we would take questions and answer them, okay? Everything you're saying, we know.
Yeah, but the people don't know what's going on.
I think the people know pretty much what's going on. And are you going to ask a question? Let's make sure we get all the questions answered first, okay?
So
You have a question, ma'am?
I'd like to know, in response
all right.
to
We got
what the other gentleman said. I attended the May Board of Supervisors meeting. I sat there for hours. I heard 47 people speak against making any changes. I didn't hear one person in favor of it. I wrote all 5 Board of Supervisors saying I had attended, this is what I had observed. Could somebody please explain to me why we were making these changes? Why was this an issue? Not one person, not one Board of Supervisor responded. So how does that make you feel? I mean, maybe they need a better PR or marketing because they're giving us no information.
Okay, but June 25th was the next time they met, and they must have heard you because everybody changed their votes to do exactly what we wanted to do, pretty much so. So they did hear you. Actually, I don't know if you were at the June 25th meeting, but Lisa Bartlett, who we had understood to be a strong advocate of expansion, she was one of all 5 votes unanimously supported this plan. So you were heard. The residents who talked about the health impacts absolutely were heard because she was talking about being there for the people's health. And another item on the agenda was rather ironic. And then someone came up, maybe it was Dennis, I don't know, somebody came up and said it's our health. And it really kind of put the pressure on everyone to realize this is about health and safety of our residents. And so I think you were heard, frankly.
Great.
You know, I also want to tell you that Mel's Airport Working Group annual meeting, dinner meeting that was held this week, Harley Ruda was there. He was one of the guest invitees, and he came and he spoke. He also listened to the pollution issue. In fact, that's basically all that was talked about at that meeting, the pollution issue. He's very much aware of it. As he said, DC moves very slowly, but he is definitely advocating for John Wayne Airport to be part of a study in terms of pollution and the effects on us. And somebody else mentioned up here on the environment, on the ocean, the birds, Back Bay, everything, yes. So hopefully we're going to be part of that study. Maxine, Ronnie, you're next. It's a question now.
Yes, I know.
All right.
I have 2 questions, one for the mayor. How did the 5 a.m. to midnight time window get determined? And why couldn't we negotiate it to between 7 and 10?
Hello? I think that's, Maxine, it's an excellent question.
Here, Diane, use this. Use this.
I don't know, as we saw it, as everyone did on the day before, and Michelle's letter, it was written in there, and we supported it for the reasons I spoke about earlier. But to your point, that's clearly what we will be advancing if we have a voice in the RFP, is to alter that. We have subsequently found out that Carlsbad and what other airport has more palatable operational flight time or flight operating times, and we will advance conforming more with the curfew.
Okay, but we did negotiate 5 to midnight.
We didn't negotiate. We didn't have nothing to do with that. That was Michelle.
The Board of Supervisors.
They didn't that was part of the proposal put forward by Michelle. I don't know where it came from.
So we don't know who advanced those hours. How they were
but it was a
determined.
good thing because it was a placeholder for perhaps.
So there's room to negotiate.
Yeah,
to narrow
I think
that.
So. I absolutely think so.
ACI,
yes.
are you going to be supporting narrowing that window?
He's already addressed that question, Maxine.
Yeah, he's not.
Much earlier.
He's not. Okay, and then the other
question.
No,
he did not say he's not at all.
Okay, I think
do you have
he said
another
he'd go within the 5 a.m. to midnight.
You have another question, Maxine?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My second question is, I was at both Board of Supervisors meeting, and at the second one, there was a gentleman who came forward who was, I believe, an attorney representing environmental groups. And he said that they had done all this research, and the environmental impact report was never published. It was never made public. He looked at the Santa Ana Library, nothing was there. He said that it was there was no log of it, and that as such, because it was never made public, that the county really can't move this forward. As I understand it, we've got 30 days to sue, and I'm sure you guys won't because you settled on this agreement. Costa Mesa doesn't have money. I'm wondering if, in fact, that's true, that we can stop all of this based on the fact that the environmental impact report was never made public and the fact that it's outdated. It doesn't include next gen. It was from 2016, not 2017.
Tom, you want to make an attempt at a response to that, Tom?
All I can tell you is I am aware that the document was made public. I did hear the gentleman speak, I believe, at the board, and I'm not going to say anything more because I think, look, at the city, the council, the city attorney makes that determination, but I can just tell you that there were, and it's actually tracked in at least 3 separate monthly updates on the city's website, beginning with a notice of preparation, followed with the release of the report. The report was also published on the JWA website, where it was 100% accessible, and it was also put out for publication at different hard copies. Now, beyond that, I can't speak to, I think is it Mr. Ramirez, I believe, who has stated that? So I don't know specifically what he's talking about, and I'm not, beyond that, I really can't comment.
Okay, Ronnie. Hugh, do you have a mic? Yeah, Hugh has one. You ready to wrap it up?
My questions are for Joe. Specifically, I spent an hour yesterday with County Council as well as Michelle Steele's office. They are extremely unclear on the hours of operation that this woman addressed, Maxine, 5 to midnight. Her question was very specific for you, and I have a lot of concerns. You as a private entity, ACI, and the county as a public entity have the ability, from all the inquiries we have done, in our legal opinion, to enter into a private agreement with not only the County of Orange, but with your tenants that are going to be housed at ACI to restrict when you are open for operation, all within your legal rights, and when you allow planes to come and go per their contractual agreements with ACI. Many people in this room are willing to bite the bullet for a few more flights a day if you are willing, within your RFP, to stipulate that you will limit your hours of operation to coincide with those of the commercial aircraft out of JWA. Are you willing to do that? That's a direct question, period. And it'll go a long way, and we know you're extremely close with many of the county supervisors and many of our council members. So this could be a huge uphill battle for us, but it's extremely important to the people of Newport Beach that you conform to that request. And it's not a very big request. And to tie to that 11 a.m., if you're processing, which Diane referred to, for international people coming in, that's another reason that we don't need an international desk, because you won't have to process if there is an international desk. So my question is more about, are you willing to put that in your RFP that you're going to submit to the county within the next 4 months?
Let me jump out and like, first, it's an awkward thing for an FBO to be, I will answer the question directly in 1 sec. It's an awkward thing for an FBO to be at this table discussing this. Like, I hope I get a smidge of credit for that. We were also the leaders, and this is the first time it's ever been said, that we will also voluntarily go dark, that when customs goes dark from midnight to 5 a.m., the FBO, at least for ACI, would go dark, and I think would be a really smart thing, that there's a lot of pressure on other applicants in the RFP, because there's still going to be 2 FBOs. Just because one goes dark doesn't mean the other has to. So to answer the question, and this is not skirting it, please don't take it as that. I want to follow the spirit of the curfew, but realize planes don't get prepped instantly. So when the FBO opens at 5 a.m., there is not a chance a plane is ready that fast. Large cabin jets take an hour to an hour and a half to prep before taxi. So what I'm saying is same thing on the arrival. You can't land at 11:55 and somehow secure that jet, put it all away, and exit the building. And I'm committing we will go dark at midnight. So if somebody lands at 11:55, they're on the ramp for 6 hours with their APU running, waiting till we open up at 5 a.m. So I'm answering you direct. I'm willing to follow the spirit of it, but to say, will the FBO hours go about the operational restrictions, that's not a fair comparison. I'm saying we're going to follow the spirit of it. So what I'm trying to do is get to the same defined, I'm not trying to be argumentative, get to the same defined terms. The idea is that a plane would take off at the same time a commercial airplane takes off, not earlier. That's the spirit of it.
Wait,
Okay.
I just have a quick question. I'm sorry. I really want to ask this, okay? What are your posted hours of operation?
We're posted from 5 a.m. to midnight, but we are 24 hours a day currently. So,
That's where it came from. So, and what's the difference between the hours of operation and access to the airport?
so if a plane lands today at 11:55, our team members will stay with it till 2 a.m. So they'll receive it till 2 a.m. So that would change instantly. So an operator looking to land at 11:55 is going to get themselves in a lot of hot water if there's not an FBO to service them when they land. The planes can't take care of themselves. Same thing with the departures. It happens all the time. I've been there at 3 a.m. moving airplanes and getting them prepped for a 5 a.m. go. So we're going to be able to push that. I hope you understand, us voluntarily going dark is a big thing, because if I lived underneath the flight path, I wouldn't want a plane flying over my head at 3 a.m. It's just not right. And it's not like there's revenue in this. It's just the right thing to do. But
those are your posted hours of operation anyways, right?
Yeah, but we're routinely open earlier and later. So if a plane lands at 11:30, someone's there till 1:30 a.m. with it.
All right, thank you, Joe. Jack, you have a quick question, and then we're going to wrap it up.
This may be for Tom. In the sake of transparency, we've all talked about the importance of this future RFP. And do you see any possible way that the city or our representatives could participate in that RFP? Because the last RFP, the professional staff of the county recommended one FBO, and the Board of Supervisors chose the 5th place FBO. So no disrespect to anybody, but it didn't seem to be a neutral, unbiased RFP process that those of us from the private sector are used to.
I'm not, Jack, let me make sure I understand. Is the question, is there any way for the city of Newport Beach to participate in who is selected RFP?
He's asking for a guarantee of our participation in that process.
Participation in the evaluation process, maybe just a cursory vote. But
I don't know how
based upon the manner in which RFPs are prepared, I would say in terms of a direct input, I would say the answer would be no.
So that violates your trusted but verified concept.
No, because meanwhile, the city will be working, as Mayor Dixon has indicated, and as she did directly with Michelle Steele in the past, the board is going to be putting this together, and they're going to weigh in with that RFP process. Now, but beyond that, I can't guarantee you one way or the other.
The final vote is the 5 Board of Supervisors.
Correct.
It is definitely, but just so you understand, because people seem to have some, look, I know this because people have argued with me in small meetings and private meetings, et cetera. The airport staff in that particular item, they didn't recommend the final action that the board took in that RFP process when there was the determination of who should take over the FBO when the other one left. I think that's what you're alluding to, correct? Yeah. Okay. So to answer your question, to be perfectly clear, it is a political process. And unfortunately, and I'm trying to be brutally honest, the city does not own or operate the airport. The law does not favor the city, but it doesn't mean that the city isn't going to fight to the very end. And as Mel, the mayor, Jeff have all alluded to, this is a battle that is not over. And if you come out with one thing, I can't say, in my opinion, that the city has ever let people down. You may not like sometimes the final decision in terms of when they have fought, but they fought tooth and nail for everything. They fought as hard as they could. They got some major concessions in terms of restrictions of the size and general aviation. Those are big wins.
I just think the professionalism of that evaluation process, they should know that the city and all of us are watching the Board of Supervisors.
Believe me, I know Mel's group is going to be watching. I know SoCal pilots are going to be watching. I know that the city is going to be watching. So believe me, and you, each and every one of you, hopefully will continue to watch. I think that's one of the messages Sue kept. So,
and Jack,
I've said too much. I got to have dinner.
The newly reorganized Aviation Committee will be keeping a close eye on this as well. All right. I'm going to stop the question and answer part. Before Ed says goodbye to everyone. The city has prepared a fact and rumor sheet that's on the back table back there that I appreciate you picking up and taking a look at your leisure. It helps to answer a lot of questions that maybe didn't get answered this evening. So, Ed, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, let's give a big hand to our panel. Thank them for coming this evening. Tom, Sue, and Joe, thank you very much. I also want to thank the Bungalow for the food. We're going to be dark in August, but we'll have our next program September the 11th, same time, same place. So see you in September. Good night.